Legacy auto companies are in trouble with EVs. Now, this surprised me. I thought car companies were doing fine and that they were building more and more electric models. But it turns out there's a lot more to this story. So to figure out just how the future of the car is going to play out, I partnered with LG Energy Solution, met with some engineers, and toured their battery manufacturing facility in Holland, Michigan to find out. I'm Ricky, and this is 2-Bit Da Vinci. Okay, so let's try to figure this out. Worldwide, we sold over 58 million cars in 2022, mostly gasoline powered. Electric vehicles accounted for about 14% of global car sales, up from just 1.4% in 2017. That's a 10-fold increase in just 5 years. And it's still going strong. Analysts expect it to reach 18% by the end of 2023 and top 60% by 2030. But it's not so simple because there aren't enough batteries in the world to produce that many cars each year. You would think that EV manufacturers made their own batteries, but that's so far from the truth. And that's because making lithium-ion batteries at scale is crazy hard. So if EV companies aren't making them, where do all these batteries come from? It turns out that there are only a handful of companies on Earth that can make batteries at the quality and scale needed for electric vehicles. One of them is LG Energy Solution. LG Energy Solution is the second largest battery manufacturer in the world by market share and owns 2 of the 5 largest operational battery factories in the world. Its largest plant is in Poland, but the company is also building multiple factories right here in the US, and one of them is in Arizona, which will be the largest in North America once it's completely online. The fact is, battery companies like LG Energy Solution make batteries. Car companies don't. And this is at the heart of the problem. Good companies and leaders need to be able to see around corners, see where the world is headed, and adapt. But car companies have decades, sometimes a century of experience building internal combustion engines. Millions of dollars have been spent on research and development on improving gasoline engines by just a few percentage points. Things like variable valve timing and direct fuel injection. These things have established a technological moat, making it difficult for newcomers to challenge them. But then you fast forward to EVs, and there is no internal combustion engine or complicated transmission. The scales have completely been tilted. Gas cars ship with empty gas tanks, and car companies don't produce gasoline. But with EVs, you can't exactly produce a car and slap a sticker that says batteries sold separately. No, with EVs, you have to provide all the batteries a car will ever need before you even sell it. The battery pack is one of the most important parts of an EV in terms of performance, weight, and cost. It can make up as much as 25% of an EV's weight and can cost $4,000 to $20,000, making it 35 to 45% of an EV's total cost. So an EV manufacturer's success depends heavily on sourcing high-quality batteries, making the battery supply chain critical. For traditional automakers, switching to EVs is almost like changing industries, even though they're still making cars, and that change is difficult, especially if you've been doing things the same way for over 100 years. But I wanted to see for myself just how hard making batteries really was, so I visited the LG Energy Solution battery manufacturing plant in Holland, Michigan. There, I had a first-hand glimpse into how cutting-edge batteries are actually made. And I gotta tell you, it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I didn't realize that the factory broke ground in 2010 and was operational by 2012. The foresight LG Energy Solution showed by building this factory here in the US as early as 2010 is something I find pretty impressive. Back in 2010, EVs were fledgling and only accounted for about 0.01% of total car sales. LG Energy Solution was able to look around the corner and saw the potential before anyone else did and started mass producing batteries. This first mover advantage is why it's one of the biggest and most successful battery companies in the world. Fast forward to 2023, and now everyone's building battery factories, and it's easy to see why. But LG Energy Solutions' Michigan plant was a major milestone in the electrification story. So back to batteries. I was allowed to tour pretty much the entire battery manufacturing facility, but we weren't allowed to film.
All right, here we go.
They hold over 27,000 patents in battery technology and have a ton of secret sauce, so obviously I get that. But I can give you an idea of how they make their batteries. On the surface, the process seems pretty simple. It's a 4-stage manufacturing process consisting of mixing, coating, baking, and assembly. Kind of like baking a layered cake. In essence, you mix 2 batteries, technically called wet slurries, of the battery's active materials, one for cathode and one for anode. Next, a copper foil is coated with the anode slurry and an aluminum foil is coated with the cathode slurry on both sides. The freshly rolled and coated foils are then baked. Seriously, the baking part of this analogy, it's just spot on. At this point, we have long foils of cathode and anode which are cut into pieces depending on the size and geometry of the final cell. These pieces are then stacked with a separator sandwiched between the cathode and anode to prevent them from touching and short-circuiting, and a folding robot then creates the final cell. LG Energy Solution currently uses various technologies such as lamination and folding and lamination and stacking for cell assembly. The next stage is called formation. During formation, the cell stack is placed inside a plastic pouch and a liquid electrolyte is injected. Formation is the most critical part of manufacturing safe, high-performance, and long-lasting cells. LG Energy Solution Michigan takes this really seriously, and each cell goes through incredible levels of quality assurance testing to make sure the final product is ready to go. That is a super simplification. Obviously, it is incredibly complicated, right? Everything I just mentioned happens inside one of the cleanest rooms I've ever been in. We're talking cleaner than the OR of a hospital by a couple hundred times. Can you imagine how hard it is to keep a room that's 2 acres big cleaner than anything you've ever seen? If you remember from your chemistry class in high school, lithium is an alkaline metal and it corrodes very quickly when exposed to water in the air. That's why battery factories don't just need to be super clean rooms, they also have to be kept super dry. In fact, they're not even called clean rooms, they're called dry rooms.
When you want to make high-tech products, whatever high-tech product that you are going to make, and batteries fall in that category, you must have ultra dry, really dry conditions and ultra clean conditions. There can be no contaminant, none whatsoever. And water is a contaminant. So we don't have small rooms the size of this room that we're in. We have large rooms that are 1 and 2 acres in size that are very clean to high standards and humidity that's below 1%. That has been quite a challenge for anyone. Even my background in HVAC, we would normally do less than 30, less than 20. That's quite popular in most labs. But less than 1, that's an achievement. It's a big task not only for people working in this environment to achieve it, but for the manufacturers of the dehumidification equipment. To make equipment to serve such a large room is a huge challenge.
For context, the driest place on Earth is the Atacama Desert in Chile, which has an average humidity of 17.3% in some areas, which is as dry as the atmosphere on Mars. So battery factories like LG Energy Solution Michigan have to keep acre-sized rooms over 10 times drier than the driest place on Earth. This is a major challenge that requires using hermetically sealed facilities with multiple airlocks and high-tech dehumidifiers. And that's not even getting into the complexity of battery chemistry and the need to design and make flexible factories that we can constantly upgrade and adapt as new breakthroughs come along. This level of exacting detail is what makes building batteries so difficult and why so few companies on Earth can actually do it. But here's the thing, automakers don't have to make their own batteries. All it takes is the right partnership with the right battery manufacturer to make the transition possible. This is exactly what has pushed the massive growth of the EV industry so far. Now, there are 2 ways you can go about doing this. The first is you can source your batteries directly from third-party manufacturers, which is what most smaller EV brands do. Or you can join forces with a battery manufacturer to have them build a battery factory for you in the form of a joint venture. Large global battery manufacturers like LG Energy Solution offer both options for EV manufacturers or to legacy auto companies that want to transition to EVs. The first is only possible thanks to their plant's flexibility. Even though they're so complex and high-tech, battery factories are also very flexible and purposely designed to be upgradable. The factory that I toured has a capacity of 5 gigawatt hours per year, but they are building a second, much bigger plant right next to it as part of their expansion. Once completed, LG Energy Solution Michigan will produce up to 25 gigawatt hours of high-quality and high-capacity batteries for multiple EV models. This means the factory has to be able to adapt to custom requirements, including different battery sizes and geometries. The company also revived its plans to build a battery factory in Arizona with a $5.6 billion investment. That factory will produce cylindrical batteries for electric vehicles and energy storage systems, as well as LFP pouch cells, for a total capacity of 43 gigawatt hours, which will be LG Energy Solutions' biggest plant in the US. Together, these 3 plants will produce 68 gigawatt hours of batteries each year, enough to power 1.7 million average-sized EVs. So let's say you want to start an EV company tomorrow. You and I do. Well, the first thing you better do is make the right partnership, because the last thing you want is to build a car and have it all ready and not have the batteries you need to sell it. The great challenge is if you're buying batteries, well, so are other people. So if you have an electric vehicle company and you need batteries and other companies do too, you're always going to be beholden to the level of supply, and there might be shortages or backlogs. The only way to really mitigate this is a great joint venture and having battery manufacturing dedicated for your products on site.
A big challenge has been the growth. Even though we are here in Holland, we have assisted the teams that have come together to get other plants going, like our joint ventures with GM in Ohio, right here in Lansing, Michigan. There's another JV going on with Honda in Ohio. And we have been supporting them and planning, and that has been quite a challenge. So now we have in our own backyard our second plant being built.
But why would car companies prefer joint ventures over simply purchasing off-the-shelf batteries? Well, it boils down to risk. If you don't build your own batteries, you're just another customer to the battery manufacturer. Consequently, you're beholden to supply, and you'll be competing with others trying to get batteries too. If you do this, you risk the ultimate nightmare scenario, where you can't sell otherwise completed cars that come off the assembly line and have to store them somewhere as you wait for batteries. This adds cost and breaks the idea of just-in-time manufacturing, where you minimize parts and materials on hand while still having a smooth assembly line. It's hard to overstate just how important LG Energy Solution has been for our domestic EV market. Just put yourself back in 2010 and think what the world looked like. There were almost no EVs, and it was not a certainty. It took great vision and great courage to build that plant and to have the vision to see what might be coming. By 2026, once all these joint venture manufacturing facilities are operational, they will have added almost 300 gigawatt hours of capacity to the US battery manufacturing sector. That's almost 6 times the total American capacity of 2021. To put that even more into perspective, the U.S. Department of Energy expects the U.S. battery production capacity will grow from 177 gigawatt hours in 2023 to 998 gigawatt hours by 2030. If you do the numbers, over 36% of that growth, that's over 1/3 of the growth forecast for 2030, will be met with LG's battery plants alone by as early as 2026. These plants will also create over 10,000 new jobs in the US, so they're hiring. I found their compensation package pretty amazing. I spoke with Emily Gilchrist, LG Energy Solution Michigan's Joyful Workplace Manager. Yes, that's actually her title, whose job it is to keep employees happy.
At our location, we really want to be able to provide almost a holistic, well-rounded benefit to our employees.
They offer benefits like 100% company-paid medical, dental, and vision health insurance and free 24/7 telemedicine services.
We offer different engagement activities like company picnics we just had. We have club programs where we have a volleyball club to a cooking club to a working parent club where the company sponsors those club outings and those events for our employees to enjoy and their hobbies in their free time. And then we also have an app that we partnered with called Bambino, and we pay $110 per week on that app, where it's kind of like Uber for babysitting. So our employees can have a night out and have a babysit covered by LG. Or if they're having an emergency, someone's sick, they can have their child cared for, and LG is going to pay for that.
One of the hardest things in all business is change. And that's what we are seeing now. We are seeing car companies that are now suddenly EV companies. And it sounds like not much of a change, right? You're building cars before and you're building cars after. And from the outside looking in, nothing really changes, but everything changes when you have to go this route. So companies with the vision to do things ahead of time, to forecast where the world is going, are the ones that will thrive. And that's why I love to see this. This is important. And also it changes the nature of jobs. I think as coal and other industries are dwindling down, we're going to see a whole bunch of new jobs. And it's not just engineers and chemists. There's a ton of trade jobs as well that will be enabled by manufacturing plants like LG Energy Solutions are building. So this is exciting news, and I'm hoping to see an absolute rise of electric vehicle sales. But what do you think? Sound off in the comments below. All right, that is a quick look at how batteries are actually made. Pretty amazing stuff. And if you thought that was cool, check out that video next. Until next week, I'm Ricky Da Vinci. Thank you so much for watching.